Alright, so far, if we look at it, we've got a handful of variables set up. We've got some nice little script set up to move our object around, get it locked in between an area. And if we really look at our code right now, we don't have too many things detailed. We don't have too much structure in the way it's set up. And we don't have all that much in way of comments to let us know and remind us what it is that we've actually done. So before we get too far along, we want to make sure that we are going back, we are commenting our code, make sure that we tell ourselves what is it that we've done. Because there's going to be a number of times where you come back to your code and it has been a while, and you want to make sure that you are refreshed on just what it is you did. So comments are a fantastic way of reminding yourself of just exactly what you were thinking when you coded it. So here we're just simply going to go in. We're going to give ourselves some space in between. Totally preference on however you choose to set it up. Generally, I like to give a little more space in between each thing, so it's nice little columns. Makes it nice and easy to read. And I'm going to comment to the side. And let's go ahead and just go in. Give ourselves some comments. We'll say for player speed, this is just simply speed of the player along the Y, or along the, let's just say, vertical. So, nice and simple. And this is going to be the speed of the player along the horizontal. Axis, and then we've got our horizontal min and max. This is going to be our bounds, our, let's say, our limits for player. Let's call this would be our minimum. So we'll say limits for our player left, limits for player movement right, and I like movement better. So let's just drop that in there. And then we can say limits for our player down and up. So here we're at least telling ourselves what it is, and we're also being able to make this more accessible to someone else who's going to come into our script. If we're supposed to hand our script off to someone else, or if we're posting it online, we want to be able to have people more easily get into our script, understand what we're thinking, and then look at the code. So here we're setting up our limits. Here we've set our speed, and then we can go back down. We have no private variables yet, so we're fine. We've got our one update function, which is called, we'll say this is just our game loop. We'll keep it simple. And then in here we had a little bit of our pseudocode where we were saying we're going to move the player based on input. We could also go in and put a little more information. This is a nice one just to block out this section of the code. We're going to add in a couple of comments over here. And let's just basically comment towards the fact that this is for our vertical and then the other is for our horizontal. Used to store variable for vertical movement, and this is used to store variable for horizontal movement. So here we're just defining what is it that we're actually doing with it. And then the next one we have, this is where we actually move the object. So if we go into here, we can say move player based on input. Now, sounds the same here, doesn't it? So let's go back up here and say store we can say store data or store input. Store input variables. And here we're going to move player based on the input that we've stored. And we really don't need too many comments. This one kind of covers us for that. We could comment towards the fact that we are moving along the horizontal. So here we use the X to move left and right, and Y to move up and down, depending on how you're setting your game up or what you might be doing. If we're looking square at it like this, that works just fine, where left is left and right, up and down. But if we were to change our game and we were going for something on top of the character, then the Y is not so useful, and we'd have to be more up and down with the Z. So depending on which direction you're setting it up for play. Here we simply want to say create, let's say, our bounding box for the, or let's just say create our limits for the player. And here we can say we are storing our horizontal, set horizontal limits, and here we're going to set our vertical limits. Okay, so we've got some pretty nice or well commented code so far. I think it's easy enough that we could go back to it. We could find out what were we doing, what were we thinking. And the only other thing we could do if we wanted to, we can push all of this out to the side so we can read it. Left side is code, right side is comments. Keep it off to the side. We have to have a little more space to view it, but we're able just to run right through it and make it nice and pretty. Now, does this change up if I open up into a different editor? Absolutely. So if you're really going to go in and make a lot of comments and a lot of adjustments to exactly where you want it, just be sure that it may not actually stick to where you want it if you're in a different editor. Okay, so we're commented up, we know what we've done, so if we have to come back to this a week from now, then we at least know where we're at, and it's a little bit easier to get back into the code without having to refigure out what it was we did. And we'll go ahead and finish this one off right here. And the next thing we're going to look at is actually loading up some objects and instantiating, creating some objects at runtime. And we'll do that next.